What happens when a CEO applies for insurance at his own company and overhears two agents planning something that could destroy everything he built? Wesley Ecker didn't build his insurance chain by staying behind a desk. He started it all in a rented one-room office with nothing but a second-hand laptop and a plastic chair. Now, 15 years later, he had 7 branches across 3 states, each one handling everything from car to health to home coverage. But lately, something felt off. Claims were taking longer, complaints were trickling in, not enough to set off alarms, but enough to make him pause. He hated second-hand reports. They were too clean, too rehearsed. Something about the last few quarterly meetings felt filtered. Everyone smiled too wide, spoke too carefully. His gut told him there was more to the story, so he made a call to an old friend in makeup and disguise, consulting someone who worked with law enforcement. Within a week, Wesley was transformed. He looked nothing like the clean-cut CEO featured in business magazines, gray in his beard. Thinner hairline, slight southern accent, he even walked with a slight limp, just enough to seem authentic. He'd go in as Wayne Ellis, a 39-year-old freelance photographer looking for health insurance. It wasn't hard to blend in. His name wasn't on any signage. Most of the hiring happened through district managers. He'd never personally met the staff in the Nevada branch, especially not the one in Henderson he planned to visit. That branch had the lowest client retention numbers in the region. It also had 2 of the highest performing agents, according to metrics. Wesley booked an appointment under his fake name and showed up at the branch 30 minutes early. The building was modern but cold, like someone tried too hard to make it look expensive. He walked in and was greeted by a bored receptionist tapping her nails on the desk. "You early?" she asked, not looking up. "Yeah, I can wait," Wesley replied. She nodded toward the waiting area. "They'll call you." Wesley sat on the faux leather couch, eyes scanning everything. A mother and her teenage son sat across from him. 2 men in polos stood near the coffee bar, whispering. He wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the tone of their voices made his ears prick up. "I told her the premium would jump if she didn't take the add-on," one said. The other laughed. "She bought it, of course. That lady didn't know the difference between deductible and premium. Easy win." Wesley stared down at the floor. He didn't move, he didn't breathe loud, he just listened. The first guy spoke again. "I've got 3 more like her lined up today. I'm gonna hit my bonus before Friday." "Nice. I'm thinking of pushing the urgent enrollment line again. People hear that and panic." Wesley looked up. The one speaking was tall, athletic, early 30s. His name tag read, Brent. The other shorter, with slicked hair and a cocky grin, wore Jason. He'd seen both names in the top performer list last quarter. "I swear," Brent chuckled, "if that lady comes back and realizes she didn't need half those add-ons, I'll just say it's policy." "Who's gonna check?" Jason leaned in. "Management doesn't care. As long as the numbers look good, we're golden." Wesley's hands curled into fists inside his jacket pockets. He felt his stomach twist. There it was. The numbers were good, but the ethics were garbage. But he didn't act, not yet. A woman in her early 40s stepped into the lobby, clipboard in hand. "Wayne Ellis." Wesley stood. "That's me," she smiled. "I'm Melody Frazier. I'll be assisting you today." He followed her into a glass-walled office. Her desk was clean, organized. She offered him water, asked about his needs, and explained every term clearly. "You freelance full-time?" she asked. "Yeah, mostly weddings and portraits," Wesley replied, keeping in character. She nodded thoughtfully. "Your best option would be our self-employed health plan. But I want to walk you through the details so you don't buy anything you don't need." Wesley studied her. Her tone was honest. She moved carefully through the policies, checking what he qualified for and marking things he didn't need. "You don't need dental unless you want it. It's not bundled in this package, so it'd be extra." "No pressure, no pressure," she said. "I'd rather you feel good about what you're getting than regret it later." He almost forgot he was in disguise. She reminded him of his early team before the growth, before the corporate layers. After the meeting, Melody handed him a brochure and her card. If you think of any questions, call me. Insurance can be confusing. I'm happy to explain anything." Wesley thanked her and stepped out. As he walked toward the exit, he passed Brent and Jason again. They were laughing, cups of coffee in hand, then he heard it. "Hey, what's with that lady, Melody?" Brent said. "She barely sells anything. Her numbers suck." Jason rolled his eyes. "She wastes time explaining everything, like these people care." "She'll be gone by end of quarter." "Good," Brent muttered. "She's dragging our average down." Wesley stood frozen near the reception desk. The receptionist glanced up, annoyed. "You okay?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Just forgot something." He turned back, walked outside, got into the rental car, and sat in silence. Melody, the one person who actually did her job right, was being targeted for doing it honestly, and the two guys raking in the commissions. They were lying to customers and mocking the very idea of ethics. Wesley took out his phone and opened the internal dashboard. 7 branches, 7 different cultures. How many more Brents and Jasons were out there, he wasn't sure, but he was going to find out. And this time, he wasn't going to sit behind a desk and wait for a report. He was going in. Wesley didn't go back to his hotel that night. Instead, he parked a few blocks away from the Henderson branch and sat in the car, the engine off, windows cracked. The air smelled like sun-baked asphalt and fast food. He stared at the building's glass front, watching the last of the employees file out. Brent and Jason left together, laughing about something, cups in hand. Melody came out nearly 30 minutes later alone, carrying a canvas tote and a stack of folders. She walked with her head down, keys clutched tight. No one waited for her. No one said goodbye. Wesley leaned back, jaw clenched. His company was bleeding integrity, and he had let it happen. The next morning, he drove to the Las Vegas regional office. Officially, he was still Wayne Ellis, but he'd scheduled a meeting with the branch auditor under a different pretense. A vendor review. No one recognized him under the disguise. The auditor, a meticulous man named Vernon, met him in a cramped back office filled with spreadsheets pinned to corkboards. Wesley kept his questions focused. "Have there been any red flags from Henderson?" he asked. Vernon wiped his glasses on his tie. "Not in terms of numbers. Their conversion rates are among the highest in the state. Efficiency metrics are solid, a bit of turnover but nothing unusual." "Conversion rates?" Wesley repeated. "The percentage of walk-ins who end up buying a policy. Henderson's sitting at 78%. State average is 53. Wesley nodded slowly. "And refund requests." Vernon pulled a file from the cabinet and flipped through it. "They're slightly higher than average, but only after the first 30 days, which means the commission's already clear. Most customers don't push hard once they realize the fine print." He didn't say anything, just thanked Vernon for his time and left. That afternoon, he returned to the Henderson office. This time, he didn't go in as a customer. He waited by the loading entrance until a delivery van pulled up, then slipped inside alongside the driver, carrying a box of promotional materials he'd brought himself. The break room smelled like burnt coffee and microwaved noodles. He found Melody there, eating yogurt at a corner table, reading through a client folder. She looked up when he stepped in. "Wayne, I had a few more questions," he said. "They said you were on break." She nodded and motioned to the chair across from her. "Sure. I've got 10 minutes. He sat down, glanced around. The walls were bare except for a faded poster about enrollment deadlines. The fridge buzzed softly. "You always work through your break?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Only when I'm behind. How often is that?" "Pretty often." He leaned forward slightly. "Not enough help, not the right kind of help," she said, her tone careful, meaning. She took a breath. "Some of the agents here focus more on selling fast than selling right. When customers come back confused or frustrated, I'm usually the one who helps clean it up. That adds time." Wesley kept his voice steady. "And management knows. They know the numbers. I don't think they look much deeper." He changed the subject. "You always wanted to work in insurance," her eyes flicked up. "No, I was a paralegal for 11 years. My firm downsized. I wanted something steady, something where I could help people." This made sense at the time. You still feel that way, she paused. I try. But it's hard to feel good about what you're doing when you're the only one playing by rules no one else seems to care about. He nodded slowly. What keeps you here? My son. She looked down at her yogurt. He's 12, has juvenile arthritis, needs consistent treatment. This job has good coverage, I can't risk losing it. Wesley didn't say anything. He couldn't. He stood slowly and thanked her again. The next 3 days he embedded deeper. He visited 2 other branches under the same alias, one in Reno, one in Summerlin. Both ran cleaner than Henderson. The agents there took time with clients. There were no suspicious conversations, no aggressive upselling. Employees worked hard but didn't seem afraid. In Summerlin, a junior agent even turned down a sale on record, telling a confused client that the plan didn't suit them. It was clear now Henderson wasn't broken because of the system. It was broken because of who was running it. By Friday, Wesley returned to Henderson. This time, not as Wayne, he walked in just after lunch, clean-shaven, hair combed back, charcoal suit pressed. The receptionist blinked twice, confused. Before she could say anything, he stepped past her into the bullpen, phones paused, keyboards slowed. A few agents glanced up, confused. Brent came out of his office, a forced grin on his face. Can I help you, sir? Wesley stopped in front of him. You can gather your team in the conference room. Now. Jason walked over, frowning. Is there a problem? Wesley turned to him, voice level. You'll want to be in the meeting too. Within 10 minutes, the staff were seated around the long table. Wesley stood at the head, arms crossed. I'm Wesley Ecker, he said. Founder, CEO, I've been to this office 3 times this week, not as myself, but as a customer. The room stiffened. I heard things I wasn't supposed to hear, saw things that don't match our values. Brent sat back, arms crossed. With all due respect, sir, we hit our goals, every quarter. And at what cost? Wesley asked, eyes locked on him. How many customers did you mislead? How many policies were sold through fear or confusion? Jason opened his mouth, but Wesley cut him off. Every call has been reviewed. Every refund request. Every complaint flagged and recorded. I also spoke to Melody, the only one here who seems to understand what this job actually means. Melody looked down, stunned. She hadn't known. Effective immediately, Wesley continued. Brent and Jason, you're suspended pending investigation. Your access is revoked. Security will escort you out. Brent stood. You can't be serious. I'm absolutely serious, Wesley said. You abused the trust of our clients and undermined the integrity of this company. We don't reward that here. Security entered a moment later, quietly. Brent and Jason were led out without another word. Wesley turned back to the team. This office will be audited over the next 60 days. Every agent will be retrained, every client contacted. He looked at Melody. You'll assist with the transition. You'll have the authority and compensation to do so. She stared at him, trying to find words. I don't know what to say. Start with yes. She nodded slowly. Yes. Wesley left the room without waiting for applause. There was none, just silence. The kind that comes when the truth lands harder than anyone expects. Outside, the afternoon sun beat down on the sidewalk. Wesley didn't notice. He stepped into the car and dialed his assistant. I want audits across all branches, unannounced. And rotate the auditors so no one knows who's coming. Understood, she replied. He hung up and drove without music, windows down. He hadn't built this company to be the biggest. He built it to be the best. Now it was time to make sure it lived up to that, even if he had to walk into every branch himself. The Monday after the suspension, the Henderson branch opened under a new rhythm. There were no announcements, no banners. Just the absence of noise, no loud laughter near the coffee bar, no casual bragging in the corridors. The energy had shifted in a way that didn't need to be explained. Wesley arrived early, unannounced. He parked in the back lot, dressed plainly in slacks and a navy pullover, no tie. He carried no laptop, no assistant, just a small notepad and a pen. This time, he walked through the employee entrance. Inside, the front desk was manned by a young temp named Carla, who barely looked up as he passed. Melody was already at her desk, headset on, explaining provider networks to a client. Her tone was calm, unhurried, but focused. She didn't see him walk past. Wesley moved into the side conference room, the one with the glass door that no one used unless they had to. He set his notepad down and waited. By 9:30, the rest of the staff filtered in. Without Brent and Jason, the office ran quieter, but also slower. The call queue began filling up by mid-morning. Carla flagged down Melody twice for questions she couldn't answer. The newer agents leaned on each other, flipping through policy manuals, hesitating before sending quotes. Wesley observed silently, noting each hesitation, each pause. When Melody finally finished her third call in a row, she stood and rolled her shoulders carefully. Her face looked pale and tight around the jaw. Wesley stepped out of the room. "Melody," he said, keeping his tone low, "take 10 minutes. Come talk to me." She nodded, rubbed her temples, and followed him in. He gestured to the seat across from him. "You're doing the work of 3 people right now. How long can you keep that up?" She sat slowly. "I don't know. I'm trying to keep the team focused. They're nervous. A lot of them were hired by Brent. Were they trained by him too, mostly?" He walked them through scripts. Taught them how to close fast, not much on compliance. Wesley wrote something in his pad. "Do you trust any of them?" "Some. There's a guy named Lewis. He just started 2 months ago. He's methodical, doesn't rush quotes, but he's still learning the systems." "What about management?" "Anyone step up?" She hesitated. "Lori's been trying. She was the office coordinator. She's not licensed, but she's organized. People listen to her." "Does she want more responsibility?" "I think she's afraid of stepping into the wrong kind of spotlight." Wesley leaned back. "We'll give her structure, not just authority. I'll bring in a compliance lead from Summerlin to support for the next 60 days. Melody exhaled slowly. "That would help." He closed the notepad. "You're not expected to fix this alone. I'm here now. We're going to do this right." She stood. "I'll hold the line until help arrives." He didn't need a promise. The past week had already shown him enough. She would do what needed to be done. After she left, Wesley called the HR director directly and gave instructions to reassign a compliance officer named Terry from Summerlin to Henderson for a temporary rotation. Then he reached out to the internal training department. He wanted a full curriculum reworked for ethical sales practices, with a specific module on customer vulnerability. By noon, he stepped back into the bullpen. "Lewis?" he asked. A young man with thick glasses and a headset stood up quickly. "Yes, sir." "Do you have a second?" Lewis followed him into the side room, eyes wide. "You've been here 2 months. How much training did you receive before you started taking calls?" 3 days. First 2 were online modules. "Then Brent gave me a script binder. Did anyone go over the legal requirements with you?" Lewis shook his head. "Not really. I just tried to follow what I saw Melody doing. She always explains things more clearly." "Have you felt pressure to sell faster?" Lewis hesitated. "Brent used to say we were leaving money on the table if we didn't close in under 15 minutes. Wesley nodded. "You're not going to hear that again. Starting tomorrow, you'll be pulled from the phones for 3 days. You'll shadow Terry from compliance. Learn the why behind the policies." Lewis looked stunned. "I thought I was in trouble." "No," Wesley said. "You're the future. I just want to make sure you're prepared." When Lewis left, Wesley returned to his post in the conference room. He didn't leave the office that day. He stayed until the phone slowed, until Melody finally logged off her computer just after 6. As she gathered her things, Wesley met her by the lobby. "I'm moving you to a district training role," he said. "You'll work with me directly for the next quarter. We'll rebuild the orientation program from the ground up." She blinked. "What happens to my clients? They'll be reassigned to someone who's ready. You've earned the right to step up." She looked down at her tote, adjusting the strap. "I didn't expect any of this." "Neither did I," Wesley said. "But we don't fix broken systems by standing still." That night, he didn't go home. He drove to the Las Vegas regional office again, this time to speak with Vernon after hours. "I need a list of every agent in the Southwest region hired under Brent's referral," Wesley said as he entered the office. Vernon looked up from his screen. That's going to be a long list. Then start with the ones who have had first-year refund rates over 20%. Vernon pulled up a dashboard and began filtering data. "Do you want to terminate them all?" he asked carefully. "No," Wesley said. "I want to retrain the ones who can still be taught, but anyone who manipulated customers knowingly, they're done." Vernon adjusted his glasses. "You're going to get pushback from some of the senior partners." Brent brought in a lot of volume. "I'm not interested in volume if it's built on fraud." He leaned across the desk, eyes locked. "I'm not cleaning house to save face. I'm doing it because I forgot that numbers can lie. And I don't want to forget that again." That week, the first compliance audit began in Henderson. Terry arrived quietly, took over the back office, and began reviewing call recordings. Within days, 3 more agents were pulled from the floor. One for misrepresenting plan coverage, another for selectively quoting premiums, and the third for forging a signature on a renewal form. They weren't fired immediately. Each was interviewed, their calls reviewed in full. Only one admitted fault and accepted retraining. The other 2 were let go. Wesley didn't make speeches. He didn't write memos. He showed up. Every morning that week, he arrived before the receptionist. He sat in the bullpen with a legal pad, listening to calls through a shared monitor. When a policyholder called back confused, he traced the issue to the originating agent. If the explanation was unclear, he flagged it. If it was misleading, he escalated it. By Friday, the tension had shifted. But not because people were afraid. Because they knew someone was finally paying attention. At the end of the day, Lori approached him at the coffee station. "I reorganized the client callback list," she said. "Put the high-risk accounts first. I also started logging common complaints in a shared doc." Wesley nodded. "You want to be office lead?" She folded her arms. "I want someone in that role who doesn't treat it like a shortcut to promotion. Good, because I don't offer shortcuts, just responsibility." She gave a firm nod. "Then yes, I'm in." He handed her a folder. "You'll report directly to Melody until further notice." As the office emptied out, Wesley stood at the window, looking out over the parking lot. The sun dipped behind the strip malls, casting the building in long shadows. He knew there was still more to clean up. Other branches, other agents. But for the first time in a long time, the direction felt right. Not because of metrics, but because people had stopped looking over their shoulders and started looking each other in the eye. By the 3rd week after the confrontation, Henderson's branch was functioning, but not yet stable. The remaining staff were stretched thin, and every desk bore the weight of backlog. Clients were still calling in confused by old quotes, and the retraining modules had pulled 2 agents off the floor entirely. It wasn't sustainable, but it was necessary. Wesley knew the pressure was mounting. He saw it in the way Lewis rubbed his eyes between calls, in the way Lori stayed after closing to recheck call logs. Even Melody, now working out of the district office, had started sending emails after midnight. She was rewriting the entire onboarding curriculum from scratch and reviewing recorded calls from multiple branches while supporting the compliance lead on site. Wesley didn't intervene unless asked. He checked in, observed, adjusted resources where he could. But his presence alone had changed something not just in Henderson but across the region. Word had spread. Other branches had begun tightening protocols on their own, anticipating the same scrutiny. But that wasn't enough. He needed closure. Not for himself, but for the people who had absorbed the consequences of leadership failures. One morning, he arrived early to the Summerlin office, where Terry had returned after her 2-week rotation. She was already in, sorting through a thick stack of internal reports. "I want to run a formal review on all agents trained under the incentive structure Brent used," Wesley said as he entered her office. Terry didn't pause. "We flagged 19 with similar patterns. Most are still active. 4 already requested reassignment to avoid compliance interviews." "Let them transfer," Wesley said, "but freeze their commissions until their account audits are complete." Terry nodded once. "You planning to communicate this across the board?" I'll be holding an all-hands call next Monday. No PR spin, just the facts. She looked up. That'll rattle some district leads. That's the point, Wesley said. Silence is what let this get out of hand. Later that day, he drove back to Henderson. He didn't go inside. Instead, he waited in the parking lot until Melody arrived for a scheduled site visit. She stepped out of her car with a binder tucked under one arm, hair pulled back in a tight knot, expression unreadable. I need 10 minutes before you go in, Wesley said, standing near the curb. She adjusted the strap on her bag. Something wrong? No, but something's overdue. He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a promotion letter official signed by him with a revised compensation package and a new title, Regional Ethics and Training Director. Her face didn't change right away. She just read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and slid it back into the envelope. I didn't think this would happen, she said. You earned it before I even knew your name. She nodded once but didn't speak. You're going to have full authority to reshape how we train, how we audit, and how we handle recertification. I'll support it, but it's yours to lead. Melody looked at the building behind him. There's still a lot broken. There is, Wesley said. But now it's in the hands of someone who knows how to fix it without cutting corners. She didn't thank him. Instead, she walked past him and headed for the door, her steps quick and purposeful. Inside, Lori was walking 2 new hires through onboarding packets. One of them had been recruited directly through Melody's revised hiring criteria, no sales background, but a strong track record in nonprofit client services. The other came from a community college job board, referred by a former client. Wesley watched as Lori explained the revised escalation process, pointing out the new tracking system they'd implemented for client questions that couldn't be resolved in one call. It was still clunky, but it was real. Lewis was off the phones that afternoon, sitting beside Terry in the back office, working through a side-by-side review of customer call transcripts. His posture was straighter than it had been 2 weeks ago. He asked questions, took notes, paused when something didn't make sense, and didn't rush to pretend he understood it. At 3 o'clock, Melody called the team into the break room for a policy walkthrough. It was informal, no projector, no handouts, just a single case file printed and passed around. She walked them through every error made in the original quote, then showed how the client's actual needs had been missed. Not once did she raise her voice. Not once did she talk down to anyone. Wesley leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. After the session, Melody walked over to him. They're still hesitant, she said. That's good, he replied. Hesitation means they're thinking. I need more people, she said. Not just here across the region. If we're going to rebuild trust, we can't do it with burnout. Wesley nodded. We're launching a new recruitment track next quarter. No commissions for the first 6 months, just base pay and ethics training. You'll help design it. She considered that. You're going to lose applicants. I'm not interested in the ones who only stay for the commissions. The following Monday, Wesley sat in a conference room at headquarters. The all-hands call started at 9 sharp. Every branch was logged in. Cameras off, mics muted. Just rows of names on a screen. Wesley spoke clearly, without slides or background music. I founded this company with the belief that trust has to be earned one conversation at a time. Somewhere along the way, we let the numbers become the story. But numbers don't tell the truth, people do, he paused. Some of our offices pushed policies that misled customers. Some agents prioritized bonuses over service. That's on me, I own it, and I'm fixing it. He outlined the new audit process, the ethics-based hiring track. The commission freeze pending compliance clearance. He named the new regional director, listed her responsibilities, and explained why the role existed now when it didn't before. This isn't about punishing people, he said. It's about protecting the people who do things right. He ended the call without applause, without a Q&A. That afternoon, Melody began assembling her regional training team. She requested agents from smaller branches who had high client retention and low refund rates. She didn't want top sellers, she wanted people who had earned trust quietly. In Henderson, Lori finalized the first round of internal promotions for support staff. Lewis returned to the phone floor, but now with a new title, Junior Compliance Liaison. His job wasn't just to sell, it was to flag anything that didn't feel right and make sure it got reviewed. By the end of the month, refund requests from Henderson dropped by nearly half. Customer follow-up scores began to climb. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Wesley spent less time in the branches after that. Not because he lost interest, but because he no longer needed to catch people off guard to see the truth. He had seen the rot, dug it out, and left something stronger in its place, not a script, not a slogan. But people who finally understood that doing the right thing wasn't just good business. It was the only business.